Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Ladies in the Trailer Industry. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Lacey.
And today we're going to talk to you about tough love and using your head.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. It's kind of a touchy topic, right? If you don't take it constructively.
For sure. I know when I talked to Lacey about this, it was more of a rant. And then I was like, I can't rant today. I have to give some action items and what people can do to make themselves more attractive to their employer or to make themselves more successful just in general and with personal growth and being resourceful for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we were all there at one point whenever we started a job and we weren't real sure, or when we were maybe younger in our career profession, we might have, I know I did, like I would ask those questions and maybe it would be the same questions over and over. But at some point I had to realize that I could figure this stuff out by myself and to be more independent. And if I did get to a point where I couldn't find the answer, that's when I would seek help. And it's not that from a management perspective, it's not that, you get mad that you get asked questions, but it takes time away from what you're doing to answer those questions. So if you're answering the same one, and it seems like sometimes we answer the same questions over and over, you would just, you're really looking for your employees or, your team to want to try to be more independent, to try to figure those things out for themselves, to save everybody some time,
For sure. And a little backstory for this, when we first started and there was only 3 of us, I know we were terrified of Tyler and didn't want to ask him a single question. So we would call every vendor under the sun and, try to find the answer out, Google it, YouTube it. Things have come a lot further within just the 5 years as far as content and media. But, 5 years ago, there was still plenty out there and plenty to learn. So, that's where we started, and that's where we hold new employees to a higher expectation.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because we didn't have the resources, and so that's what we expect from others as well.
And I think we tried to encourage to just to give specific examples to them, like what the one thing that, Juan, he really likes to use is he'll say like 4 words, look in your book, and which that means that just look in your part catalog or whatever before you come and ask the question. Look and so, I mean, we just like what you just said, we have plenty of resources, so try to find that answer first, and if you can't, then go ask somebody, and we're all happy to help, right? But we want to know that you tried first.
Yes, exactly. And definitely IT related questions. We get those a lot. Yes. And just, simple questions that for me, I know I would want to answer myself because that's valuable.
Yes.
To someone, just being able to answer those questions and figuring it out and
problem solving.
Yeah. And I mean, say you figured it out. Just because we're saying don't ask questions doesn't mean don't accolade yourself. Because, I mean, I still want to know that you did it, but I would just rather you do it on your own.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I think one of the things that I think about, like first steps, you run into a problem, you have a question, maybe you're trying to answer a customer because they have a problem about their part. Maybe you are trying to replace a part, substitute it for a different part, right? We have a shortage in the industry right now. So we're constantly trying to figure out what can we substitute for this to get them up and running. But, maybe we don't have that specific part, but we have something else that could take its place. And so the one thing that I first think about is what is my problem? And then what solution am I seeking? So what's going to help me to answer this question for the customer and move on? So those are the top 2 things that I start with. And I feel like if you start there, then you already know what kind of answer you're looking for. So then you know where to look or to start looking to find that answer.
Right.
I don't know. It's just, I think about I think I go back to whenever I was asking the same questions. And at some point, also whenever you are asking the questions and they're being answered by somebody, if it's management or a peer or whoever, at some point you have to also think, okay, what did they do to answer this question?
Right.
Like, watch them and then replicate that the next time whenever you have a question of whatever it may be, so that you can try to imitate those things to figure out. I mean, we're all going to go through probably the same processes. I mean, there are some like a Juan that have such industry knowledge that they know exactly where, they know exactly what you're talking about. They know exactly like how many bolts are on this specific random part or whatever.
Yeah.
They can answer right off the top of their head, but a lot of us don't. We have to actually go and find that part. We're going to do the same thing that you're going to do to find that answer. So that's just kind of something else I was thinking about. Like, try to watch one time and then replicate that the next time.
For sure. And definitely from a management perspective, I think a lot about if I'm getting asked the same question 3, 4, 5 times, what process isn't clear to people.
True.
Because at that point, then we need to put one in place. And then when it's in place, we can just say, reference the process at that point.
For sure.
But with that, back to a previous episode, we talked about podcast books. Even one book can give you one line item that just clarifies resourcefulness for you, really.
For real. Yeah. And I think, I learned it whenever when I was getting my master's degree, just how to dive deep and research something. But it doesn't have to be that deep. It could totally just be like the steps that you take over and over to answer your question. So what I was saying earlier about maybe trying to replicate it. So if you had, a lot of the questions that we get are about parts. Any specific question about a part. So if who you're asking is going to go get that part, maybe the next time you could go get the part, or if it's too big to bring inside, take a picture of it. And if you still can't figure out the answer, right, bring that picture. So take that step away that's going to have to be taken to answer the question, so that you're saving everybody time. Just small things like that can totally help in a day to, get your question answered without causing maybe some frustration because that same question's always being asked or whatever. But you're helping, so you're showing initiative to help to answer that question, even though you can't find the answer yourself.
Sure. I think a lot of the reasons people also don't find the answers for themselves or look up the resources is they don't feel like they have the authority to.
Yeah.
And that is one lucky thing about our company and our business is that you have all authority to do what you need to do.
In fact, we encourage it. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Operate yourself as if you're your own boss and, proceed with that.
I think we did touch on that in a couple of episodes about, just taking the initiative to maybe you're not making the final decision, but right, you still have the room and the capacity to go and figure out the solution and then present that,
Yeah, come up with the proposal and present the solution and then let someone else make the final decision.
Yeah.
And then, how to apply this in other industries besides the trailer industry. I feel like it's really the same across all industries. I feel like Google is your best friend. Yeah. I'm always going to go back to that. Even when I was a main player in the implementation of the ERP with you.
Yes.
And Google still to this day, how to XYZ in NetSuite, and we find our
NetSuite
answers.
is our ERP system. Yeah. Just as an example of an ERP system, if you guys are wondering what the heck is that.
Yeah. But, Google was our best friend on that and still is. So I think with any industry, you can definitely just try to be resourceful, find your own answers, read books about what you're trying to learn.
Yeah.
There's books about being a leader. There's books about not being a leader. There's books about IT. You can teach your own skill set. So really just to learn your skill set within your company as well is for sure a big plus.
Yeah, I laugh because I remember I go back to try to replicate it for yourself. So I go back to I would walk into your office and I'd be like, I can't figure this out on NetSuite. And the first thing you would do is go to Google And so after a few times, I was thinking to myself, like, duh, like hitting yourself in the head, like you can Google that too. You don't have to ask, how do you do that? If you watch her do it, that's how she's finding the answer. Mm-hmm. And that's not all your only resource. You have a wide range of knowledge on NetSuite itself. So that's a lot of the reason why people ask you. But just those simple questions, you can do that first. I can do that first. I was like, oh my gosh. And it just opened up this whole new, like, how much time did I waste standing up and walking in there? Instead of just, and wasted her time too, your time. But
these days we just yell down the hall instead of doing that. So we
do
definitely need some walkie-talkies or something.
But anything with IT or, industry specific, you're going to know what your questions are, but these are just general rules of thumb that you can use and apply to whatever industry that you're in.
Shoot, even one that comes to my mind is Excel.
Yes.
But I've seen so many trainings on Excel
that
are targeting me these days.
Consumed in Excel.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely Google is definitely a power player in resourcefulness. So
and the Google Docs now, I like it because Excel does it too to some extent, but I feel like the Google Doc is like even more smart maybe because like I'll do a couple of functions and then the next cell I'll hit it like equals and it kind of predicts what my function's gonna be. I was like, you know what? For sure. You're right. I do want this one. And thank you for not making me type in all this stuff. Yeah. Like it's pretty cool. But
AI and predictive.
Yeah. We give Kiefer a hard time around here because we call him the IT man and he really doesn't like it. But it's like every time the computers do something crazy, we're like, Kiefer, come help us.
All in all, just to recap this episode, and for you, I think it's just be resourceful, gain and grow your skill set. Google whatever you need to Google, find a mentor, ask those questions from them instead of maybe your peers or your colleagues.
For sure.
And then go from there and
strive to be independent, strive to be a go-getter who kind of answers their own questions, because even your management have questions that they're having to figure out too.
Yes.
So and also everybody sees that. Like if you are trying to figure out a solution, people appreciate that and they see your efforts. Even if you don't come to the answer, they saw your effort and it goes a long way. So I think that's just one thing to think about, just to grow your own self and to grow your independence. And you end up self-teaching yourself a lot that you can then pass on to other people. And one day you're going to be the one answering all of those questions, so it's just, you stay with it. Grow yourself. What do you got?
Grow your book of knowledge.
Yeah, for sure.
Stay sassy and classy.
That's right. You got this, ladies.